Ladies and gentlemen, I give you X-Corp.
I'm thrilled by how X-Men 97 keeps getting better with each episode, and not only do they move the overall narrative forward, but they also touch upon some key details from the extensive comic book lore. In the 6th episode, titled Danger.exe, Professor Xavier deals with the loss of his friend Magneto, but more importantly, he comes up with an innovative solution to continue his work, even though the X-Men are no longer allowed to operate in the United States. This is a world where mutant hate is greater than ever, but the Professor has found a way around it. After Danger is defeated, he announces that he and his mutants will now work overseas in an organization called X-Corp. Now, this is not a random reference, but something that's the brainchild of Grant Morrison, when he worked on the X-Men titles. As for the show, a few of the X-Men are already confirmed to be part of the X-Corp, and more might be joining later. In this video, I'll tell you about every single member and their potential role in the working of the organization. Also, for the purposes of this video, I will only focus on the members of X-Corp in the show, not the ones from the comics.
It's all right, child. You did bring me another ride.
Professor X. Before I go into what his role might be in the upcoming narrative as the leader of X-Corp, let me quickly take you through his journey of forming it in the comics. This takes place during one of the darkest times for mutants. The mutant population is booming, and Professor X's twin sister Cassandra Nova launches a devastating attack on the mutant nation Genosha. In Grant Morrison's new X-Men number 14, you can see the brutality of this attack, and she takes over her brother's body. She makes him reveal on live TV that he's a mutant, and in the wake of millions of mutants dead, he decides to do something about the future of mutant kind and forms the X-Corp. It's a non-profit organization that's dedicated to protecting mutants with offices all over the world. So it would be fair to call this a global extension of the X-Men. Almost every branch of the X-Corp is staffed with experienced mutant heroes, many of whom have previously worked with teams like the X-Force, X-Factor, and the New Mutants. As for the show, this crisis faced by Xavier is no less, and his leadership will be crucial. He's the undisputed leader of this organization, and the X-Corp badly needs his calm influence to guide them through these difficult times. As I said before, mutant hate is at an all-time high, and the officials, like Dr. Cooper, are already unhappy with the formation of the X-Corp. They'll challenge its legality and scope, and the answer to these challenges cannot be violence. Who better than Xavier to ensure this as a leader who continues to advocate for human-mutant coexistence? The first headquarters of X-Corp have been built in the devastated ruins of Genosha, and it serves as a memorial to Magneto, so clearly Xavier is going to go all out to make this a success. Cyclops. If you go by the original comic book story, you'll find out that X-Corp had headquarters in Genosha. There was, however, a Krakoan X-Corp setup, and Cyclops had a major leadership role here. He had to coordinate with the broader mutant community, and he was a key figure in all the decision-making that was required. Now, the X-Corp does have a troubled history in the comics, and there was a point where several X-Corp offices were bombed, and the organization had to be effectively shut down temporarily. Cyclops was the one who ordered the evacuation of the offices after the bombings, and he continued to be a key personality in guiding the organization forward. I think we might see something similar in X-Men 97. Professor Xavier won't be able to oversee everything, and he might assign a second-in-command position to someone like Cyclops, whose leadership skills have been tried and tested. In the absence of Xavier, he's been the unofficial leader of the X-Men, and now with the stakes so high and the threat of apocalypse looming large, he must have a major role to play in the functioning of the X-Corp. All I know is the introduction of X-Corp isn't just a random cameo or reference, but a major plot point as the show's narrative continues. Beast. If I consider the Krakoan-era X-Corp setup, Beast is actually part of the leadership group. However, unlike Cyclops, who has a more proactive role, Beast uses his skills to strategize and research, which keeps him in the background. I think he's been the perfect addition to the organization where Cyclops leads through command, and he contributes through his analysis and problem-solving skills. Honestly, X-Men 97 is yet to uncover the best of Beast, and maybe this is his time to shine as he works alongside the X-Corp. We've already seen him as a scientific genius and a voice of reason who helps the X-Men with his technical expertise. Given the crisis at hand, they will need all of his brilliance to put together the operation that Professor Xavier intends. He'll be the one to make mutant infrastructure work and troubleshoot problems, and without his brains behind the operation, it wouldn't be as effective. Also, let's not forget about the threat of apocalypse, which is the ultimate challenge that the X-Men have to endure, and Beast will be the silent hero if they are to have a chance against this evil. Jean Grey. In the comics, Jean Grey doesn't have a direct role with the X-Corp, and instead, she's more of a supportive figure who supervises the working of the organization. She doesn't have an operational role, and instead, she supervises multiple worldwide missions connected to Xavier's mutant organization. However, as one of the most powerful telepaths out there, her significance in the X-Corp, even as an indirect member, is invaluable. She's proven to be a stabilizing presence among the likes of Cyclops and Xavier, who have a more proactive leadership role. She might not be running the organization or deciding its day-to-day activities, but her judgment and psychic oversight has always been a key factor. I don't see this changing in the show because she's been as supportive as you would expect, especially given the fact that she's been forced to sacrifice her child for the greater good. Now, with the crisis worsening, she will have a point to prove, and I wouldn't be surprised if X-Men 97 hands her a more proactive role as part of the X-Corp than what we've seen in the comics. A simple way to do this might be to assign her a station, where she can guide the more inexperienced mutant members. After all, it doesn't make sense to put all the primary X-Men in one place, unless of course the priority is to deal with Apocalypse and not the mutant-hating world. Rogue. In X-Men 97, some of the key members who held important positions in the X-Corp in the comics are missing in action. We don't have the likes of Monet, Warren Worthington, and Banshee, and so far, the extended reach of the X-Corp still remains a mystery. That being said, Rogue is definitely a part of the team, as seen in the meeting scene, where Xavier holds a roundtable conference. In the comics, however, Rogue was not a direct part of the team. She operated from a beach house in Valle Soleada, and she was a field operative who helped in various missions. She worked low-key as a mechanic under the alias Anna Raven, and her directive was to work alongside Storm and Sage as part of an offshoot X-Men group tied to the local X-Corp sphere of influence. They all worked to protect mutant rights and handle community conflicts. For instance, when the psychic mutant Elias Bogan attacked the facility in California, she was pulled directly into defending it. The show will probably handle things differently with a more proactive role. She's one of the X-Men who's lost the most so far, and her life is about to get a lot more challenging with the comeback of Gambit as the Horseman of Apocalypse. The loss of Magneto and the evil avatar of Gambit will mean that her position in the X-Corp will be put to the test when Apocalypse finally attacks this timeline. Nightcrawler. Much like Rogue, Nightcrawler never had a direct role in the X-Corp. Instead, true to his style, Nightcrawler was an investigator and critic who confronted the paramilitary mutant police force, run by his former teammate Banshee. He traveled to Paris to check on Banshee's new aggressive mutant policing group, and he raised questions about their methods, such as their extreme tactics and recruitment of some dangerous mutant criminals like Blob and Avalanche. He did have a key role in this regard, and it was Nightcrawler who discovered that the X-Corp was secretly hijacked from within by Mystique, who was disguised as Surge and a reformed Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. He made an effort to rescue trapped teammates like Chamber, and he even survived an explosion before the Renegade group was ultimately taken down and X-Corp was disbanded. Now, do I expect the same level of impact in the show? Well, from what we've seen so far of Nightcrawler and X-Men 97, I don't think the showrunners will take the trouble of assigning a single episode to him. We'll probably see him in a supporting role here, as he works alongside the Professor to implement the core philosophies of X-Corp. In terms of hierarchy, he's below the other members of the team, and I don't see him being part of the core decision-making process, even though he has proven himself to be the voice of reason and morality. The ones who can join the team later. After Professor Xavier announces X-Corp, you can see a roundtable conference of the confirmed team members that I've already discussed in the video. However, there are some key X-Men missing in this meeting because they're elsewhere. Now, I think there's a high chance that some of these missing mutant heroes like Wolverine and the others might join the X-Corp later, and maybe the missing chairs in the meeting room indicate that there's scope for more to join. So let's check out the potential new members and what their roles might be for the smooth functioning of X-Corp. Wolverine. We just had an entire episode featuring Wolverine and his vicious mission, but the latest episode largely kept him out, and he wasn't seen standing alongside the Professor when he created X-Corp. Logan is missing in the meeting as well, and I think it's simply because he isn't there at the moment. If the X-Corp storyline continues going ahead, which I think it will, Logan must join the new group at some point. It'll also give him an opportunity to test his claws because as a part of the X-Men, the action is largely restricted because of laws that prohibit X-Men from operating in the US. The moment a mission involves some serious action, or the moment the X-Corp is threatened, you will see Wolverine intervene, and it won't take too long. In the comics, he hasn't been seen as a core member, but he's been involved in various missions. For instance, he joined Cyclops, Beast, and Emma Frost on a visit to the Hong Kong X-Corp branch in the new X-Men Annual No. 1. Later, he fought John Sublime and his mutant part-harvesting U-Men, and this time he was aided by X-Corp agent Domino. So you can see that even in the comics, he was forced on direct combat and tracking down enemies more than tactical strategizing, and I don't see this changing in the show either. Morph. The case of Morph is probably the most different in the show from what it is in the comics. I do consider the possibility that Morph might return as part of the X-Corp, but in the comics it was impossible because the character died decades before X-Corp was formed. Naturally, he had no role to play during the events of the organization, and I'm sure that X-Men 97 is going to change that very soon. In the show, we've seen Morph play an important supporting character, and the variety of cameos that we get in each episode is courtesy of him taking the form of characters like Deadpool or Mr. Fantastic. His shape-shifting skills can come in handy, and among the ones who haven't joined the X-Corp already, I think he's the most likely to join the soonest, especially after he's been disillusioned with Wolverine. Storm. Storm has occasionally crossed paths with the X-Corp in the comics as an external ally. She's teamed up with certain X-Corp members like Sage and Rogue to fight underground threats, like the psychic predator Elias Bogan, whose catacombs sat beneath an X-Corp facility. We're more used to seeing her leading other major divisions of the X-Men, such as the Extreme X-Men, or as the planetary leader of the mutant nation of Arakko. Now, there's a chance that the show might recreate the same. The Xavier school has already assigned her to the position of headmistress, and she has her task cut out with a handful of young mutants who are supposed to be trained and guided by her. Moreover, the creation of the X-Corp will probably increase scrutiny on Xavier's school, and Storm will have to be at the forefront to protect the interest of the young students. In that case, this powerful mutant might be restricted to a supporting role in the X-Corp when the situation demands, and I'm sure you'll see a lot more of her in the episodes to come. Forge. In X-Men 97, Forge has already proven his usefulness, and he's been instrumental in rescuing the X-Men on multiple occasions. Comic book history doesn't have too many records of Forge being associated with X-Corp directly, but he has always assisted in the architectural and technological setup of X-Corp facilities, where he helped integrate global human corporations with Krakoan innovations. With his technical prowess already confirmed in the show, I think you might see him as part of the X-Corp at some point, where he can team up with someone like Beast and combine their problem-solving abilities for a particular mission. I just get the feeling that the upcoming threat of Apocalypse will require all the mutant heroes to team up, and X-Corp or not, they'll have to fight together if they're to have a chance. I think that adding the X-Corp as part of the narrative is a masterstroke, because it ensures that the showrunners can explore multiple stories even after the threat of Apocalypse is dealt with. X-Men 97 has already been confirmed for a couple more seasons, and I'm sure that the story is not going to be just about the X-Men dealing with Apocalypse. The X-Corp crisis can be brought about in the new show in various ways. I'm curious to see how it's handled in the upcoming episodes. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the X-Corp introduction in X-Men 97, and also share your thoughts about the future of this organization in the show. If you appreciate the efforts to bring you this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such videos.